Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. This week I'm going to be reviewing Bloodwing #1 from Eternity Comics, a 1988 black and white book. But before we get into that, I want to show you some of my own work that could help the channel and my art career if you guys decide to check it out. I produce a full-size, full-color, 12-page comic book on Patreon, and I send it out to patrons for $2 a month, and it's random access. I also sell these on alexanderturbin.com, and so you could check these out if you go to either of those places, or you could go to Instagram at alexturbin04401, and at my website I also have Mutandis and a bunch of other collected stories that I've done over the years. But let's get into Bloodwing. So I couldn't find my Bloodwing #1. I knew I had it, but I just couldn't find it. You know how when you have a bunch of comic boxes and you just can't find what you're looking for, it drives you crazy, and then you end up reading half of them. But anyway, so I started reading Bloodwing 2, and I was a little bit confused, to say the least, because you really need to know the whole story. But really, on retrospect, you don't really need to know the whole story. So it's written by Bill Spangler and penciled by John Gallagher and inks by David Mowry. So I started reading this, and there's like this whole story of intrigue and super sci-fi story, intricately woven, and it's really dark. And I'm kind of liking the art. I'm like, this is pretty cool. It's really dark. There's lots of shadows, lots of shading, and I was really kind of into it. And it had some cool characters, and it had a cool storyline. And I was reading it, and like it took me like 15 pages to really get into the story, but I really did start to enjoy it towards the end, where one of the characters goes into this like a matrix type of reality, and finds the cybernetic organism that helps Bloodwing. And I was really starting to get into it, but then I was like, oh man, I know that I have Bloodwing #1 in here in my comics. I need to find it because I've always been wanting to review Bloodwing, and I wanted to do 1 and 2, or 1 anyway, and I just kind of wanted to do it the justice it deserved, because I remember buying this when I was younger, and I was feeling particularly nostalgic today because it's cold out and the snow is blowing, and it's just miserable. And that's what I would do when I was younger, is I would come home from school, and then I would trudge down to my local comic book store and grab whatever books I could find. If it was a Wednesday, it would probably be all those Marvels and DCs and X-Men and stuff that I wanted. But if it was another day, I would pick up pretty much anything that I could find. I'm just like a comic book nerd, and I will just buy anything, frankly. So I have so many black and whites and indies and stuff like that. But and then I would go home, or I would rather stop by the store and get some devil dogs and some orange juice, and I'd plop down in the tub and take a nice soak in the tub and read a stack of comics and eat some devil dogs and drink some orange juice. And that was pretty much the best time ever, while it was just horrible snow outside. I think most comic book fans have that kind of a story. But anyway, so I go and I find my Bloodwing #1, and I am astounded. This is written by Bill Spangler, so it's the same writer. Pencils John Gallagher, and the inks though are Michael Lang, Laing. Whereas the inker for the second one was David Mowry. I don't think I have ever seen a distinct difference in the art style and quality. I usually don't try to judge artists, because making comic books is really hard, and it's so subjective. One thing what I love could be something somebody else hates, and vice versa. But you look at the artwork in number one, and it is beautiful. It's gorgeous. There's so much. There's such nice rendering. I mean, look at the difference between the rendering here and of this background cityscape and the rendering of this cityscape. It is like night and day. This David Mowry, oh man, I really hate to say this because I hate to slander another artist, but he just butchers this artist's work. It's like two different pencilers did the work, and it is disgustingly flat. At first, I was like, "Oh, that's a really cool style." He's using this minimalistic, almost Mobius-esque type of artwork, and I'm just like, I was kind of into it, and I was like liking this flowing line work, and everything's in the dark. But what I'm realizing is everything is in the dark because he blacks out all of this dude's awesome artwork. John Gallagher, his beautiful artwork. I don't know if he went on to do anything else. I didn't look that up. But this guy, he just destroys any kind of line work, any kind of depth, any kind of, I mean, everything's in the dark. But I mean, look at this one thing on number two. This is the cybernetic AI organism that helps Bloodwing. And here's this. Here, I'll show it up close to the camera. It's just like these kind of like lines and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It kind of reminds me of Buck Rogers and kind of some of the stuff that they would do in the TV show. But then look at the same scene. This is the same thing inked by somebody else. It's a completely different thing, and I like this way better. It's got motion, it's got weight, it's got depth, it's got it's awesome. So anyway, I'm done bashing this inker, David Mowry. I just now that I remember it, I got this book and I read it and I really enjoyed it, and I got the second one and I stopped getting Bloodwing because I didn't like the art, and frankly the story, unless you really pay a lot of attention, is quite confusing for both of them. But it's an intricate story that if you pay attention and you really delve into it, it's quite good, but it's just not worth it for that art in the second issue. It's really kind of a bummer. I'm going to have to get some more Bloodwings to see if they change the inker back, because, man, that guy just slaughters this John Gallagher's beautiful artwork. Let's go over the story first and see what we see. So it's basically a like a Deep Space Nine type of. Actually, no, I think this is a planet. And maybe, yeah, this is a planet, but it's a spaceport too. This is where the ships come into land, and right off the bat, you see Bloodwing, and I thought he was a vampire, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think he's an alien, but I also think he's some sort of Cthulhu character because he uses these tentacles. So maybe he's just like a vampire Cthulhu creature. So he starts with this fight, and he pretty much kills these three guys for an unknown reason. And then you go to a spaceship, which I think is not only a spaceship, I think it's a spaceport or a something like that, where ships come to dock and refuel and stuff like that. So there's these dudes, and look at this amazing. I'm going to get back to the artwork. I say that pretty much every episode where I get ahead of myself and I want to start talking about the artwork, especially in this, because this is beautiful artwork. I did not think that I was going to be this surprised on how much I really love this art. This is more Mobius esque than the second issue, just, I mean, there's more detail, but it's like a detailed Mobius or Bilal or one of those French creators. Um, so there's this character, I can't remember his name, and he's like the sheriff or constable or something of the spaceport, and he is getting this information by that happening to the three guys, and they're just, it's a lot of intricate. The writer obviously watched a lot of Aliens and Blade Runner, because this is definitely a cross between the two. And look at the faces; they look very French. French artist anyway. So Bloodwing actually goes to this, or he finds out that these four people are being held captive because they have a cargo in their ship that somebody doesn't like. So they kind of are just talking about what they're going to do, because they've been found out by, I think, this group of I don't know what they are. They're like the CIA or something of the New Americas, or the whatever, the corporation, something like that. And anyway, they're being held so that they can't leave because they've got a cargo, and they're just discussing that. And here's more of that uh, aliens, really aliens-ish wording, and typing across the screen. It would be a green or a red if this was the regular aliens type stuff. But they're talking about the thing that they have in the cargo and what to do, and they're just like, hold tight. But then look, more of this intricate detail of the spaceship and the spaceport, and so it's more of this constable guy, and you see the little edges of his cape, or he's got like this dark fire that surrounds him at all times, which is, I think, where those tentacles come from. And so he's having a conversation with the constable, and he's telling him that these people who are actually his old war buddies, and they had a relationship. He was their captain. He was responsible for them, and Bloodwing is telling him that they are in trouble and that he needs to go help them. And he's like, if you help them, I'll help you. So it's going to kind of become a relationships of sorts. And one of the backstories is that there was this like devastation, 9/11 type thing, where these colonies were destroyed, and that's what they were talking about back in the beginning of the book. And I'm not entirely sure how that figures into the other storyline. There's like two or three different storylines going on, and since it's the first issue, you're a little lost. But as it progresses, you kind of glob on to what's going on. So this constable goes to the docking bay where his old compatriots are, and they tell him that they have a canister with what they think is a person inside of an alien race who are a bunch of artists, and I guess they're just kind of like weird artists that they'll do this odd I don't know what you call it, public art, where you just do kind of avant-garde, weird, strange things. And they're trying to get him to help them, and he's like, I don't even know if I can. I can't read this writing. They might not even want help, so it might be just an artistic stunt that they're doing. So they go through, and there's an alert in the space station, and that is really a decoy for these bad guys to come into the space dock and tell these crew members that either they give up the pod or they're going to kill them. So they are just kind of negotiating about what's going to happen, and Bloodwing just comes in and starts. Yeah, there he goes. He kind of takes them out a little bit, and but this is where they're negotiating and stuff. And so Bloodwing goes crazy, and this is where you think he's a vampire, but he's also got this other weird kind of skills, abilities that he does that aren't vampiric. So you don't really know in the first two issues if he is a vampire or if he's an alien or what. But they see, here's the tentacles. He does his stuff to the guys, and they release the pod, and it's the alien. Here's the alien, and they know who Bloodwing is, so maybe he's one of their alien types, citizens or something. I don't know. They don't really say, but the alien is like, we're gonna take care of this, and everything's good. But then the epilogue is some bounty hunter is going to be hired to go after Bloodwing, and that does not happen or even anything in the next issue. And here's some cool Eternity and Dark Horse advertisements. Trouble with Girls. Check out the Trouble with Girls review that I did. Anyway, so this guy, John Gallagher, his art is beautiful, and if it's inked correctly, I'd like to see him ink himself. But this Michael Lang, maybe, who knows? Maybe Michael Lang did the best, made his artwork better. I don't, embellished his art and took his poor pencils and made it better. I'm going to have to investigate both of these guys and see really what is what, because you see great perspective. You see great transition from in front of the camera to the back of the camera, and the facial expressions and the detail. It's just a lot of really nice, not over rendered detail. That's the thing. You don't have to over render it, but the guy in here, he under rendered it. He didn't do any rendering. So I don't know. It's just so sad. I'm so sad. So yeah, I mean the narrative art is great in this. So the penciling is really good. There could be a few too many panels going on, and maybe makes it a little bit confusing. But there's a lot of Star Wars, Star Trek jargon going on. I guess it'd be more Star Trek jargon. It's really deep sci-fi stuff. So there's a lot of storyline going along with them being in space and on a spaceship and stuff like that. But the panels, the panels are nice and open, unless it's a nice grid for what's going on. I mean, why do a whole background on this if it's going to be littered with all of this lettering and story and type? But it's all part of the story, and it's an interesting thing. The thing about this is the first issue has nothing to do with the second issue, and they're both good stories. But I kind of wish there had been some kind of correlation between the two. Even the same character. I mean, they don't have any of the same characters in the second issue that they have in the first issue, other than Bloodwing. And so, I mean, I don't know if they were thinking of completely restarting because they have a new art team, or whether it's I just don't know. Anyway, it's really beautiful art that he's got going on here, and he doesn't always overdo it. Like, he's got this nice block of shadow, and looks almost Sin City-ish, where it has the negative space and the positive space, where he's looking at the computer monitor, and that's how it's. I mean, it builds a lot of anticipation, builds a lot of atmosphere. So, I mean, it's really nice. He has lots of different angles for his faces and heads. It's not just talking heads. It's interesting, and it's interactive, and his beautiful backgrounds in the spaceship are really fantastic. So I really don't have enough good things to say about this penciler and inker, and it's just a travesty that the second issue was butchered the way it was. Like I said, I'm going to look into, or if anybody knows these artists, did they go on to do other things, and did they change how they looked? Were they as intricate as in this story, or was it the penciler that wasn't as detailed and the inkers just ran amok with what they had to use, and this inker happened to be better than the other one. So I don't know. Anyway, I mean, look at this satellite. I've drawn a few satellites. Like I drew the ISS for a Mutandis issue, and it's very difficult to do this kind of rendering. It's very intricate and precise. But it's a beautiful comic, beautifully rendered, and it's nicely written. The people don't really have different voices per se, but you don't get super lost even though there's a lot going on. So that is definitely a positive. So this is Bloodwing, 1988, from Eternity Comics, one of my favorite publishers. And I would give this a 9. I'm going to give this a 9 because I really love the artwork. And the story is just a little bit convoluted. And if they had a little bit of explaining of what was going on, that might have helped. But then there's even more reading that you have to do. And there's already so much. Maybe they could have taken out one of the plot lines and just kind of focused in on some of what was going on with the actual Bloodwing. But anyway, I really enjoyed the read, and I really enjoyed the artwork. This is definitely a book that you would get for the artwork and not so much the writing, unless you're going to get all of them, because there are 5 in the series, and I haven't read 3, 4, or 5, so maybe they go back to the previous storylines and wrap everything up. If I see more Bloodwings, I'm definitely going to go get them. So anyway, I'm giving this a 9 thanks to its artwork. If you guys like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell when new videos, which I try to get them out on Monday and Thursday. But also, oh, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so, oh yeah, if you like this kind of stuff, I have other videos with different reviews. So if you have a hankering for this kind of review, go check out my other reviews. And also, if you guys have any suggestions as to what I should review, let me know in the comment section. And if I have it, I'll definitely do it. And if I don't have it, I could very well go get it. So thanks for watching, and have a great snowy afternoon. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. Have a good one.